Trump's White House refuses to condemn the murder of a black man by a white supremacist. James Harris Jackson, a 28-year-old white supremacist from Baltimore, traveled to New York City and brutally murdered Timothy Caughman, a 66-year-old black man who, with a sword, he murdered him with a sword, America, it's sick. Jackson reportedly told authorities that he killed Caughman for the rush, and that he traveled to New York to kill as many black people as possible. When asked to comment, White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer refused to denounce the murder, claiming that he didn't have all the details. This reluctancy seems to be a common thread for the Trump administration. At the press conference in February, Trump was asked about the rise in anti-Semitic attacks in the United States and responded with an analysis of the Electoral College. It was also Trump who famously took several days to condemn the former KKK Grand Wizard and white supremacist David Duke. And now, this silent bigotry seems to be a pattern. Attacks on April Ryan, a reporter in the White House briefing room, a botched HBCU president's visit. What's really going on in the Trump administration? Do they really care about the needs of African Americans, America? I don't know. I really don't know to answer that question. Yes, they have hired Omarosa, so I guess we should give them a clap, a big clap for that. But beyond that, he says he seems to care about black people and about brown people, but his policy seems to be in all the wrong directions, if you ask me. Just think about it. This president had an opportunity to have a conversation with the African American community. Throughout the campaign, you would hear him say, oh, black people, what do you have to lose? Give me a shot. Give me a chance. It took him almost 60 days to have a meeting with the meeting with the Congressional Black Caucus, and nothing came out of that meeting. He didn't do anything. He didn't change his budget. His budget reflects really, really backwards priorities. So while he's bolstering the military by 10 to 15%. He's cutting programs that help black and brown youth. Case in point, at the Department of Education, where he's slotted 13% worth of cuts that will actually go to help black and brown youth and poor youth have a shot at the American dream. Same goes for the Housing and Urban Development Department, where he's cut $6 billion. Right? This president, if he really wanted to commit to helping African Americans, he would once again, like I've said over and over, and I feel like a broken record. This president needs to have a conversation with the African American community, not his selected few Republicans that Omarosa has picked out, but have a conversation with real black folk and ask them, what can we do to make your community better? If he wants to fix the problems in Chicago, if he's quote unquote serious about Chicago as folks close to the White House says he is, then maybe he'll take a trip to Chicago, the West Side, the South Side, and ask the people of Chicago some questions. I went to Chicago. After our blow up on Fox News, me and Gianno Codwell, I went to Chicago. I went to Finger High School. I went to Westinghouse. And I asked the students, how can we be helpful back in Washington? What can we do to solve the problem? What can we do to be part of the solution? You would hope the president would do the same, but he seems to just give these big flowery addresses from the Oval Office and not really get anything done for the American people. And this shooting that happened in New York was a great opportunity for the president to come out and say, I reject white supremacy. But he can't do that, or he doesn't want to do that. Either or, it is bad for business, America. Bad for business. This guy is bad for business. And it's not only him. Think about who else is in his administration. He has somebody like Steve Bannon, who ran Breitbart, but is also a proud card-carrying member of the alt-right. Right? And the alt-right is code word for people like Mr. Harris, white supremacists, who believe that white people should have supremacy over African Americans. Listen, I really don't care if white people want to. I don't care what the alt-right says. I really don't care what the KKK says. All I'm saying, I think that there's this argument that's confusing the GOP and the right. Is that, all these African Americans want are free things. No, that's not what we're asking for. We're asking for a fair shot at the race of life. What we have now is a situation in the race of life, if you're white and you're male, you start 10 yards ahead of the rest of the pack. But if you're black or if you're Hispanic or if you're Muslim, you're 10 yards back. Obviously, if we're running 100 yards and you have a 10-yard lead, absolutely you're going to beat me. But what makes matters even worse is those of us who are African Americans and brown that are running this race, we don't have any shoes. We don't have the proper training. right? They have defunded public education in many of the cities that we call homes, right? They've degraded our black men and our brown men by putting them in jail, by creating the school to prison pipeline where they take you right from the classroom to from the schoolhouse to the jailhouse. What they have created is a system where only the rich, the wealthy, and the white benefit, and the rest of us don't. Now, with that being said, right, let me make this caveat, and it's a caveat the president made in his farewell address, where he says, I'm not saying that white privilege abounds, and it's obvious, right? But there are those working class white folks who are still struggling as well. And it's job of us African Americans to understand their struggle. But we can make this country better for everybody if this president was willing to put his money where his mouth is.